While the new age Indian businesses today are at the forefront of innovations, the need to innovate for sustainability has increased too. For our next session, we are going to deep dive into the need and urgency of building responsible businesses. I would like to request the moderator for the session, Ms. Shweta Ramdas, Sustainability Lead, Amazon India Operations, to introduce the panelists and lead the conversation.
Hello everyone and welcome to Amazon Smbhav 2022. I'm Shweta Ramdas, Sustainability Lead at Amazon India. Today I'm excited to bring you an interesting panel discussion on the topic of building responsible businesses of the future and how enterprises can drive sustainability agenda through innovation and collaboration. We have an esteemed panel of distinguished guests joining us for the discussion today. To start off, I'd like to welcome Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General at TERI. TERI, India's leading think tank on energy, environment and sustainable development, is helping usher in transitions to a cleaner and sustainable future through the conservation and efficient use of resources. I would also like to welcome Abhinav Singh, Director, India Customer Fulfillment, Supply Chain and Global Specialty Fulfillment at Amazon. Thank you for joining us. Today, in this discussion, we will focus on key issues that require greater attention as Indian businesses begin to address climate-related challenges, as well as bring to the fore the best practices in our endeavor to build responsible, sustainable businesses of tomorrow. We will further touch upon Indian businesses and their role in leveraging technology to make bigger strides towards sustainability. Let's dive straight into the questions we have for you today and start with you, Dr. Vibha. We all know that TERI has been working closely with different players in the ecosystem to mainstream sustainability in their business strategies and practices. What's your view from a macro level on how things are and what kind of steps do we need to take in the next 5 to 10 years?
Thank you so much for your introduction and asking this important question. We all know that sustainability is the buzzword today. Everyone is talking about it, and largely because we really want to survive on this planet. And the way things are, we are convinced that this is not the sustainable way of either development or consumption, the way we are doing it today. In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic, it has served to place India's sustainability issues under a magnifying lens. With the market becoming more sensitive to sustainability concerns, and the observable positive impact on brand value that environmentally responsible firms enjoy, the writing is on the wall. The businesses ignoring sustainability perhaps are putting their own businesses at risk. A medium-term risk assessment for any business requires the factoring in of sustainability scenarios and implications for that businesses. Fortunately, Indian businesses are increasingly recognizing the importance of sustainability, and therefore they are ensuring that sustainability gets engraved in their DNA, and they work towards achieving sustainability for the long run. And that's also very clear what our Honorable Prime Minister committed at Glasgow. Because what if Prime Minister is giving a sort of promise that will be net zero by 2070 and role of renewables in years to come, which is going to increase. It is showing that what is today a sort of that companies on their own are doing it, but tomorrow maybe it will become mandatory. It will no longer be voluntary. The other thing is that we really have to look into what is happening at the global level as well. ESG, which was not even heard of a few years back, that is environmental sustainability, that governance, that one is looking at the company level. And those companies, their indices are performing much better in the international market as well compared to S&P Global Market Intelligence data. So it is showing that it is also the consumer who is looking forward to the products which are made by a globally or a company which is concentrating more on sustainable development. I'll also like to draw your attention to that companies that take care of social performance, they also reflect better in their financial problem and creating long-term value for the stakeholders. One good example which comes from India, that is of Jain Irrigations. You all must have heard they are leaders in supplying irrigation systems, but they integrated everything. Their first thing was, how do we give the superior quality planting material? And they are biggest producer of tissue culture propagated banana plants. Why they are doing better than other companies? Because they just don't sell tissue culture propagated plants. They give the entire package. It is how to irrigate. What kind of fertilizers? If there is a disease, their team will go and work them. And thereafter, they'll buy the produce from those farmers. So it becomes the entire value chain where farmer is willing to make an investment. So once they are becoming more sensitive towards water utilization by making use of drip irrigation, it is they are conserving the natural resource water, which will remain available for those very farmers for a long time to come. The other is fertilizers are given. Again, I'll say it is an expensive input for agriculture, will only be given when the plant requires it and in the right dose. Farmers are able to afford this because they know they will get X amount of money once their produce is ready. Jain Irrigation is even exporting those bananas, and therefore they are getting right value for the farmer. So it's a win-win situation. But then they have taken into consideration the most important stakeholder, farmer, how he will get economically benefited and in a way the socially what the responsibility of the company is. The other example which I would like to bring to your notice, that is regarding the LED bulbs. Again, that's something like, if you remember 5 years back, we were reluctant even to, or rather it will be which light we use maximum and we'll change that with LED because that was very expensive. But then there was will from the government and therefore they started subsidizing it. That subsidy was for a very short period because thereafter it was in a way savings from the large scale production. And today I think they have taken over the entire market. So that is what, if we really want to do, we can achieve results the way we want them.
Your words couldn't be truer, Dr. Vibha. Thanks for sharing that. Coming back to you, Abhinav, a lot has changed over the last 2 years due to the pandemic. Do you think the pandemic has also changed the approach towards addressing societal shifts and meeting sustainable development goals?
Dr. Vibha put it very succinctly when she said that businesses ignoring sustainability are putting their own business at risk, and also that customers care about it and businesses looking to create long-term value can't ignore sustainability. At Amazon, we've been committed to sustainability for a while now. In September 2019, we became the first signatory to the Climate Pledge, through which we committed to meet the goals of the Paris Accord 10 years ahead of the timeline of 2050. So by 2040, we aim to become net carbon zero. We didn't want to do it alone. We can't do it alone. And honestly, it is a collective effort for the planet, which every single company, like Dr. Vibha put it, needs to get involved in. And hence, we are driving more participation to the Climate Pledge. And today, we have more than 300 companies, 313 to be precise, who signed on to the Climate Pledge. These are companies like PepsiCo, Visa, Procter & Gamble, Verizon, Siemens, and others. These companies collectively have upwards of 1.8 trillion in revenues, 7 million employees across 21 countries. So the impact of the climate pledge is reaching millions and millions of people across the world. What we intend to do with them is fairly simple from the structure perspective. Measure the greenhouse gas emissions that we have in our operations across these companies, implement decarbonization strategies, and neutralize any remaining emissions with additional quantifiable, real, permanent, and social beneficial changes. This will involve not just adopting technologies which are available and readily in place to adopt, but also inventing and innovating new technologies so that we make it viable for the businesses in the long run. This will run the full gamut of transportation, packaging, solar, wind, and all other sources of renewable energy. So the Amazon commitment to the climate pledge and our working with companies across the world to make it happen is something that's really important to us.
Thank you, Abhinav. Very pertinent points across both the environmental and the social lens that Amazon adopts. Moving on to you, Dr. Vibha. Recently, TERI organized its 21st edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit. What were the key takeaways from the summit that Indian businesses must implement? How can they ensure a sustainable and equitable future by collaborating with global leaders, government stakeholders, and youth to deliberate on the modus operandi required for equitable responses to enhance planetary resilience?
Thanks, Abhinav, because in a way, Amazon is one of the few companies where you are reaching practically every Indian, or I'll say large number of stakeholders across the globe. And therefore, people will value what is being followed by Amazon. And perhaps in years to come, they are also going to look into, are they working in a sustainable way? So like other companies, you will also have to be extra careful because for you, it is every citizen kind of a thing. And thanks for asking me this question because we are very proud of our annual event called Sustainable Development Summit, which initially started at Delhi Sustainable Development Summit 22 years back. So this is an important summit in which we try to bring stakeholders from across the globe. And when I say stakeholders, I'll say we are very sensitive in terms of participation. There should be participation from women and policymakers, those who are very good in academics, policymaker definitely because they are the ones who are going to influence the policy, youth, financial institutions, and practically from all the countries. Last year also, it was over 33 countries who participated in this summit. And we also give sustainability award during this summit. So we choose one of the leaders who had demonstrated sustainability at a very high scale. So it is, I should say, it is only tracked to event perhaps globally at this scale, which is held apart from after COP26, because it is more of action-oriented. And this year we had also launched another program, and that is Act for Earth. We also believe very firmly that the future of climate change or the actions is youth. And therefore, they should, first of all, understand and participate in suggesting us actions. This particular edition, and of course, it's the Prime Minister also inaugurated it last year, but this year also it was inaugurated by our Honorable Prime Minister. And I was very happy when he called upon TERI as a premium think tank to continue building knowledge in this discourse. I'm proud to say that this particular summit had followed its tradition in the past. And basically, we came across this 3 days of discussion. We and our partners across the globe exhibited how investments, actions, partnerships, and policies are shaping the 2030 agenda and vision to achieve the gift of 5 elixirs, Panchrita. And this is basically like, if I say that when you say what came out of the summit, I'll say it is again that we have already lost much of the precious time. The urgency for climate action should not take a backseat. And while we are witnessing heat waves, floods, extreme storms in different parts of the world, and pandemic also to some, I won't say it is due to climate change, but somewhere it has also shown us a way, or told us, first of all, we have only one planet to live in. And whatever happens in other parts of the world is going to have direct impact on you. And it's not just the pandemic. We are now also seeing impact of Ukraine-USSR war on each one of us. So I'll say the world is perhaps now coming together. And they are looking at building more resilient economies. We are getting better prepared than before. And perhaps the end of pandemic, we are again seeing that while we are saying fourth wave, we are also looking at that we are better prepared. We don't have to enter into lockdown and so on. But also it is that we have to act as one world. Although the investments are still not coming in, because when we talk of energy transition, we have to make major investments. It's still not coming up the way it should, but overall realization is there that there is urgency to address the climate crisis, and therefore it is financing as well as sharing technology. I'll just like to add one more thing. When we are talking of inclusive growth, it is not just sharing of technologies. It is developing technology together. One shoe doesn't fit all. And therefore, a country with so much of diversity like ours, its socio-economic conditions are so different. And at the same time, we are a growing economy. We talk of how much of infrastructure is yet to be built. And in years to come, perhaps because we will make advantage of what is available in the world as best technologies, we will be able to adopt them. And also develop technologies which are suitable for small and medium industries. I'll say for rural housing, how to make them more green, more energy conscious, and so on. So therefore, India also has an option to develop these technologies and perhaps share it with the rest of the world as well. So when we talk, like we are talking these days quite a bit about hydrogen. Now, will it be the best thing to just get it from few companies and start manufacturing? Or like, of course, it's the hydrogen mission has been announced by the Prime Minister in last Independence Day. And we are working towards that. But over there, as a country, it is our responsibility. And we are intelligent, hardworking people in our country. Indians are very hardworking. So therefore, we should contribute towards developing hydrogen economy and ensure that it is not just limited to large industries. Rather, it is made available to our rural India as well in some way or the other. And that is where perhaps we also need to set up units, center of excellence, where you train everyone. Because technology is one thing, technology development. But beyond that, see, if hydrogen is produced, we need a distribution channel. We want it as safe as possible. We want it to be made available to small and medium industries as well. It's not just the large industries. And whatever we do, there will be some problems coming. There will be some teething problems, and not just teething problem, even maintenance issues. So therefore, you also need trained manpower in those disciplines. So that is where we need to work towards if we really want the country to move towards net zero I'll say much before what has been committed. And we can do it. If we take everyone along with us, we can do it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those very important thoughts and underscoring the urgency that's required for climate action. Abhinav, I'll move back to you. Can you talk us through how businesses across the world leverage technology to make their operations more sustainable?
Dr. Vibha spoke about adopt and develop technology, adopt existing technologies and develop new ones. I'll just extend that thought process a little bit further. It starts with intent, an intent to do something about the impact we are having on the climate. And then look around to see that there are technologies that already exist, which will help us significantly shrink the carbon footprint that we have in the world. Let's talk about operations facilities, climate control, using motion sensitive lights, using technologies to auto close doors. All of these technologies exist today. Using these technologies and adopting them in a meaningful way so that we are able to reduce the carbon footprint of those buildings is important. And we are doing it at Amazon. We are retrofitting buildings. We are doing energy studies, energy consumption studies to determine the footprint of every single building, see how is it that we can make the energy use intensity lower with every single passing month and year. We measure it at a building and a network level and so on and so forth. But the meta point being that there is technology that exists. In some cases, it is about adopting it. And then, of course, there would be invention from an energy use perspective. How do we make solar more affordable? How do we make the wind energy in such a way that you're able to consume it through the year in different parts of the world, which do not have that kind of wind throughout the year? So there will be some invention that is needed. But more than that, intended in adoption is important. If we talk about transportation, Dr. Vibha spoke about hydrogen as a fuel. That is certainly the fuel of the future from what we know now. But there is enough and more electric vehicle adoption, which is possible in today's scenario. We spoke about 10,000 EVs in India by 2025. We've made a commitment of 100,000 EVs in our global markets by 2030, and we are moving towards that goal. Similarly, using fuels which are more energy efficient in air. So we use green fuels in our Amazon Air business. Also in moving to rail, which is from a carbon emission perspective, a better option. In India, we have partnered with Indian Railways, and a significant percentage of our customer shipments today travel by rail. That again is an example of adoption rather than invention. If you think about packaging, it's about using machine learning and artificial intelligence to optimize package size so that you're not wasting packaging when it reaches the customer. Understanding which shipments can go without packaging because they will not get damaged from our fulfillment centers on the way to the customer. And we're investing significantly in this and doing primary research ourselves. We have packaging test labs in quite a few of our fulfillment centers where we test new packaging designs and invent them with manufacturers based out of here in India, where we are then able to use those innovations. A very simple innovation, we use paper tapes. We do not use plastic tapes to seal our packages. That's something which has a significant reduction from a climate perspective and required a lot of invention. Just to give you a sense, the adhesiveness to make sure that it's as effective as a plastic tape has to be 25 times that of the plastic tape. That required investment and invention. But moving to a more optimized packaging size and design would be adoption of an existing technology like machine learning. And finally, from an invention perspective, we are investing. We have a climate pledge fund, which is $2 billion. And we are investing in companies across the world, which are committed to making a change and dent in the climate crisis. In India, one of the examples is Ion Energy. It's an Indian startup which develops software to improve the life and performance of lithium-ion batteries, which will help power electric vehicles and make them more efficient. So I guess if I was to draw a virtuous cycle, I'd make it a 4-step cycle, starting with intent, then adoption, then invention, and finally encouragement for startups across India, which ties in really well with the government's Make in India initiative and empowering SMBs. So that would be my humble recommendation to companies all around the world. Develop an intent, declare that intent, adopt existing technologies, invent on your own and partner, and finally encourage small and medium enterprises as they'd like to invent on your behalf.
Thank you, Abhinav. I think technology is indeed a great enabler and nothing more the need of the hour to address our climate crisis. So we are nearing the end of our discussion today. But before we close, I would like to know, Dr. Vibha and Abhinav, how your organization is looking to create long-term positive impact on both our society and the planet. If you can both share your comments, would be greatly appreciated.
Well, if you ask me to describe TERI in 2 words, I'll say we work on sustainable development. And TERI thinks, I should say, we are much before the issue becomes an issue. Like when TERI was established, it was on the thinking behind setting up TERI was that it will work on the problems that mankind is going to face in the future. And I'm talking of way back in 1974, when renewable energy was not even thought of. And that's the time we started working on renewables, biomass-based gasification. And then in 1997, when India completed 50 years of its independence, we launched a study, which was Green India 2047. And I'm very happy to report that it was supported by the corporate world, because everyone was talking about development, very good. But then what have we lost in this path of development? And what is going to be the scenario if we do business as usual? So therefore, it was basically that let's look beyond today and not just put those problems. Then we brought out another study, which was Disha, like what should you actually be doing? So we are early voices in all these subjects, and we continue doing that. So TERI is working, like everyone talks about air pollution. So I'm just giving few examples. So, but then what is the source of that pollution? So let's look into it, and let's also try to correlate air pollution, say, with health impacts. So let's not look into any of these things in isolation. If you have to make an investment, look into that investment just not for that sector, look into that investment, say, on health, the public health. So how do you correlate that? So as an institute, it's a knowledge-based, not-for-profit research organization. And we actually are working across the board. It is that as an institute also, it is not that we look into any project in isolation, we look into the total impact. We also look into that if you have to adopt new technologies, which might perhaps sound to be expensive today, but then how they are going to benefit society as a whole. Just giving you one example from agriculture, if you talk of precision agriculture, it will be that, okay, sprinkler, subsoil irrigation, these are expensive. But what are you saving? A resource which you can't generate, water. You look into, like TERI is working on nanoparticles, nanofertilizers. So how do you save? It is not just the saving to the farmer. It is that the huge subsidy that government is offering on urea, so that gets reduced. Your transportation cost, because it is not even 1/100 of the volume that you have to take to the farmer. So your entire transportation emissions, they get reduced. And then now there are technologies. Use drones to spray that. So what is going to be the expense? So therefore, as an institute, we try to provide the ultimate solution to a particular problem. And Abhinav just mentioned about Amazon and steps taken by them for green buildings. So TERI also has the Greha Council, which is committed towards ranking of buildings, five star, 4-star. And it's not just the design of the building. Now we are getting into the next phase of it, and that is sustainable building material. So, and we also have a university, so we have youngsters. We also have a program of youth, so we go to even school children, college children, and sensitize them about, first of all, their carbon footprint and what they can do for the society. So we are working at different levels and with different kinds of organizations. We are researching, we are into consultancy, we are into implementation, not just in India, also to the neighboring countries. So it's a very vibrant organization, which in a way is committed to the cause that we need, or rather we need to survive. So if humans have to survive on this planet, they cannot ignore all the issues related to climate change and so on.
Thank you, Dr. Vibha. Thank you for continuing to be the knowledge hub for our nation. Abhinav, over to you. Any last comments from you?
At Amazon, we realize and take seriously our responsibility towards the climate. We recognize that success and scale brings broad responsibility, and that our actions have an impact much larger than our own small world. It has an impact on the ecosystem that we inhabit, and we take that responsibility very seriously. We spoke about initiatives we've taken within our supply chain and operations. We also do, taking a cue from what Dr. Vibha was mentioning around education and empowerment, we also do a lot of work in educating and empowering our associates, the communities in which we operate, the importance of sustainability. We celebrate the World Earth Day in a very meaningful way across our operations all across the world. We make sure that we also had an initiative where we switched off our lights all across our operating buildings in India for an hour, and that saved a significant amount of energy. Those are small initiatives, but go a long way in building a culture of appreciating sustainability and educating the youth of tomorrow. In terms of specific steps, we continue to march down the path of building more sustainable buildings, making our transportation greener through electrification, and also experimenting with cleaner fuels, working with railways and other organizations which would be a much more greener way of transportation, inventing when it comes to packaging. This is invention not just from the perspective of machine learning and AI to optimize packaging sizes, but also inventing with local manufacturers the kind of packages that we develop, so that we can encourage local manufacturing and as well as make our packages more sustainable and reach the customer safely. And finally, focusing on the circular economy, which is to create more value than we consume, really, by recycling a lot more than we actually consume as an organization. And you know about the climate pledge, where we ourselves are encouraging companies all over the world to come join us in this journey of accelerating the world's move towards a net zero carbon environment.
Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you for continuing to champion the cause for Amazon and for creating the impact on our climate. With that, we have come to the end of this panel discussion. I truly believe organizations can work together and commit to running their businesses in the most efficient way in order to reduce their impact on the environment. I surely hope today's discussion and innovative ideas shared on the floor will serve as an inspiration to others to work on massive scale efforts in adopting responsible practices for achieving a greener world. I would like to thank all the panelists for joining us today. Unfortunately, Mr. CP Gurnani, CEO Tech Mahindra, could not join us live today. He has shared a special message for us. Can we have the video, please?
Thank you for inviting me to the Amazon Smbhav. I think all of us do realize that the environmental risk, especially the devastating effects of climate change, have become real, they've become significant, and they are no longer just a physical upheaval. They could create economic impact. They could have a consequences on the business, on the countries, and the society. Natural catastrophes and extreme weather events pose a threat to operations continuity, social stability, failure of critical infrastructure. And if you put all this into a mathematical equation, it literally translates into a financial crisis. I think there is an opportunity for most of us in corporate to come together and try and reverse the impact, that we can commit to preserving our planet's natural resources. We all can take a pledge to adopt a net zero strategy. And we clearly know that planting a few more trees, pooling your cars, or reducing the energy consumption, or adopting different alternate energies, I think we can reverse. So there is an opportunity for the corporate to avoid this crisis. From my perspective at Tech Mahindra, being a people's organization, 95 countries, 150,000 people, I can only say that my biggest achievement in life is that my young employees came back and they said they want to be energy efficient. They want to use solar energy. They want to use wind energy. They want to harness every drop of water. So clearly, it is not about Tech Mahindra, it is about the associates at Tech Mahindra. And my request is that as long as we treat this problem as a human one, we realize that the people in the company are the catalysts, and that whether we come together as individuals or, in Delhi, when my children were growing up, I remember the Delhi, the menace used to be the crackers during Diwali. Till my children came back and said they are not going to spend that money on crackers. Can they get the money? And I think that is the day, at least the Delhi bursting of crackers and the pollution reduced dramatically. And I think the more we can bring people into green and clean initiatives, the more successful we will be. And that is the reason why Tech Mahindra has been successful. We have put solar energy management platforms, digital energy efficiency platforms. We have looked at drone-based solutions. We have looked at advised our customers on sustainable manufacturing. We have looked at waste optimization. We have even gone ahead and told our clients that when you migrate to cloud, you save minimum 27% energy. So I can only say what my colleagues started has now become a movement, and it has got a life of its own. I think all of us first need to be educated. We need to be educated that we need to make our homes sustainable. We need to make our workplace sustainable. We have to take into account that this is a problem which a policymaker can help you solve, but he will not be the one who will execute on it. He can give you a concession to buy an electric vehicle, but he cannot buy an electric vehicle for you. So sustainability management has to come from within, and it will start from education. Similarly, digital technologies, new age solutions, uh, intelligent sensors, AI-based platforms, measuring carbon credit and building those platforms which are, more transparent and accurate, because sustainability is an immediate issue. It's also a long-term issue, and we need to be persistent. It is not only about what you do inside your house, it is also what you do outside your house. It's not only what you do in your corporate, how you measure the impact on the ecosystem. It's no longer about a bar of soap. It is also about the chemicals. It is also about not about just the paper being printed on both sides. It is about how many forests have you cut. This is where I think the industry has to evolve their own codes, a strong governance, clear policy directions on renewable energy, single-use plastics, or looking at every player in the value chain. So the only way it will work is not only we become disciplined, we make the whole classroom discipline. I think it is an end-to-end traceability. If I can develop sophisticated systems at Tech Mahindra which take into account an end-to-end traceability, I think it will work out. And as you know, Tech Mahindra is, terracotta seals by the Prince of Wales, every level of a gold ranking, every excellence award in sustainability. I think it just adds to our confidence that it is not only about Tech Mahindra. Our duty is beyond Tech Mahindra. We are a company with a purpose. Tech Mahindra and Mahindra Group is looking at creating a long-term positive impact both on our society and the planet. We are meeting people and explaining to them that sustainability and profitability are interlinked. That next-gen technology also means that you use lesser power. I gave the example of the cloud migration, but it is true in everything that we do in next-gen technologies, whether it is the bulbs or whether it is the way you manage the waste, zero waste to landfill practices. I again repeat, for Tech Mahindra, it started by the associates when they made the sustainability personal. The personal initiative of a few associates in Tech Mahindra empowered Tech Mahindra, and today Tech Mahindra will make it personal for the world. And we will continue on our journey, and our passion reflects in every conversation we have with the society.
Thank you everyone who's logged in to be a part of this session. Stay tuned. Lots more coming your way at Amazon Smbhav 2022. Have a good day.